Thank you very much. Before I get into my talk, let me introduce myself. I'm Alex. I'm a front-end developer at Instafo, and I work there improving the platform. So let's go into it. Yeah, advanced VS Code tips and tricks to level up your front end. So before we start, I just thought it might be great if you have any questions during the talk, and it's sometimes difficult to see the questions in the chat, that you start, if you have a question, rather than a comment, that you start it capitalized with, yeah. And that way, and also that it is to everyone, not to nearby. And that way I will do my best to keep an eye in the chat, and maybe I can reply to the question right away instead of at the end. So let's first discuss the agenda for today, or what I'm going to discuss. So first I will talk about my mindset when it comes to code editors, or my approach to it. Then I'm going to make a short introduction to VS Code for those of you who may not know it. Then I will talk a little bit about shortcuts, then about snippets, and then the extensions, and also how to share or collaborate with VS Code. Okay, so the mindset is, and I will tell a little backstory to really explain it. So I've been using VS Code for a while now. I really like it. It's great. But at one point, I tried to go into Vim to learn it. I saw some video about all the features and how good it is. And then, yeah, I tried to use it. But it didn't take long until I said goodbye to Vim. I gave up relatively quickly because I just found it was too complicated to really learn it. But one of the things I really got from this experiment was the time the Vim community spends on their text editor. They spend hours configuring and learning. Well, first it takes a lot to really learn it, but they also spend a lot of time just getting the settings right and finding shortcuts or key combinations that make them more productive. And it was even to the point that I saw one guy on YouTube and he shared his method of using Vim, and he said that he would record himself programming, and he would later watch his recordings to see what mistakes he did, or rather what combinations key combinations he could use to achieve the same end but faster. And so I really like that kind of mindset, because sorry, I just had to turn off my phone because it was someone was calling me. So yes, they spend a lot of time investing on it, and if you compare someone who uses Vim and he spent hours just getting very good at it with someone who uses VS Code out of the box, of course, the guy who uses Vim is much better and faster. It's just like in a video game. Imagine you're playing a video game and you play against someone with the same cards, but your cards are on level 1, but his cards are on level 99. And even though you have the same cards and everything, of course he will win because he has the better cards. And yeah, and in some sense the same as for your code editor applies for using your code editor. And another analogy I want to use from playing video games is, if you play any strategic games, you usually don't spend all the time playing, but you usually invest some of the time to improve, to level up your characters or come up with better strategies. And maybe it's not this, maybe it's you spend more improving it and less time playing, or the other way around. But in some, usually you don't spend all the time playing if you want to get really good at it. And the same applies for your code editor. You shouldn't just take it out of the box and use it, or learn a little bit and then that's it, like it was for me. If I look back at my time when I started using VS Code, I had a quick learning curve and my productivity increased a lot. But at some point, I just kind of stopped looking into new shortcuts or ways of becoming better. And then it just stayed that way. And after learning about Vim and the Vim community, I realized, maybe I don't have to use Vim. I can keep using VS Code, but if I keep improving and learning new things and making it better, then my productivity will continue to rise, and that way I can be as productive as someone who uses Vim. So, and this is the principle that I want to communicate to you today, that you should spend some time every week, I don't know, learning some shortcuts or finding extensions or discovering new features. And this applies globally, and just not just only to VS Code, but to any code editor that you use. Because with this mindset, you will continue to be increased in your productivity writing code, and that will make you also a better developer. And I will use now this principle with VS Code, and of course I will show some nice features and settings, etc., and extensions, of course. But some of the examples may not be so relevant for you. But if you take this one key lesson, then you will benefit a lot, I hope, from this talk. So now a short introduction to VS Code. So this is how my VS Code looks like. Of course, that's not how it comes out of the box. And that is also one of the cool things of it. You can customize it. So that's how it would normally look like. But you can install all kinds of themes and then customize it. And you can also create your own theme. So for those of you who care about it, you can change almost everything there is. Here on the right side, you see the bar where you see all your files. And this is actually, usually it comes on the other side. So usually VS Code comes with code on this side. And the reason I changed it, and that's something I learned from some guy on YouTube, is that, of course, you should always try to have as much real estate on your code as you want. So maybe you don't always need this bar. So that means you would open and close it constantly all the time. But when you do that, the text changes the position. So it's difficult to keep track when you do that. And when it is on the other side, that jumping does not happen. And that's why I decided, that's why I took his advice and also put it on the side. Yeah, so to continue, here you can search for any string, also with regex, in your project that you have open. Here you have the source control panel, which I will explain. I will tell a little bit about it later. Then you have the debug section and the extensions. So another very cool thing about VS Code is the command palette, or this bar that opens. You can use it to find any files very quickly, and you can also use it to execute any commands that you have. Then I want also very quickly go into the settings section. So VS Code works with a settings.json file that, if you have a lot of settings, it would look like this. And another really cool new feature that they implemented, I think, quite recently, is that you can sign in into your VS Code either with a Microsoft or a GitHub account, I think. And he saves all those settings. And if you log in into another computer, he downloads all those settings, and then you have them right there in just a couple of seconds. So that's really cool that you can just take your settings from one computer to another, or just save them in a cloud. If anything happens to your computer, you wouldn't lose your settings. And the last thing that I also really like about VS Code is that you have the terminal right here, and you can also split it up into multiple ones, and you can, like me, make a shortcut to extend it all the way, or just half the screen, and toggle it very easy. And so that's a quick introduction to VS Code for those of you who don't know it. And now we go a little bit into the more powerful stuff, or the shortcuts. So it doesn't matter from which code editor you come from. You can, when you open VS Code for the first time, you can click here, and then he gives you extensions with a key map. So if you come from Sublime or Atom, or probably any other editor that you use, you can just take the key maps, and you don't have to learn the shortcuts of VS Code, but you can just keep using the ones that you have learned already. Also, if you forget some shortcuts, or you want to learn new ones, you can go quickly search here for the shortcuts, and then he opens you all the available shortcuts that you can use. And here you can also see this when condition. So you can create shortcuts that only work in certain situations. So for example, if you are in the terminal, or if you're selecting a text, then if you press this key combination, that should happen. And if not, you can also say that something else should happen. So it's also very useful. And you can also see the source. So is it a default keyboard shortcut, or was it created by you, or does it come from an extension? And you can also see the same thing, but in a JSON file. Okay, so it seems there is no questions right now, so I continue. Now I will talk about the snippets, and this is also one of the things that, in my opinion, really helps you a lot. So you can search for all kinds of snippets in the extension marketplace. So for example, if you use Angular, you can install Angular snippets, or React snippets, or thousands of other snippets that really help you. And just to show the principle, if I create a new file, and I want to create a new component, then I can start writing this trigger snippet, and he returns me all this boiler template that I need to, for example, in this case, create a new React file. And he already puts me the cursor in this position. So if I want to change the name, he just does it on 3 different places. And that's also some of the really nice features of VS Code. If you select one text and you press Ctrl-D, he highlights you all those files, and you can change the name very easy if the strings are the same. And yeah, these snippets are very useful for all kinds of situations. For example, in React, you use state. That helps you to yeah, that's how you would store state in React. And again, the snippets can help you with this boiler template, so you don't have to write this all over every time again, and also use effect, for example. Effect. There it is. So yeah, imagine how much time it would take you to write all of this if you can just memorize some a short string that yeah, these short letters, or well, you actually don't have to memorize anything in the case. He just helps you when he sees that you're trying to write it, and then yeah, you can just use the snippet. Another cool feature that VS Code has, and this comes just out of the box, is this auto importer. So if he sees that you have not imported use state, and then you can just click on this and he will import it for you. And this is also very nice, because then you don't have to go also into this, but you can just write the boiler template and use the snippet and then import it, and you don't spend, yeah, you don't waste almost any time writing everything here and then importing it. And yeah, this really helps you to program faster. As you can see, VS Code also brings some linting. If you don't like the linting, you can also install ESLint. Yeah, it's a very recommended extension. And he looks into your repo or your project that you currently have open and search for an ESLint config, and yeah, links to the project automatically by reading that config. And he also sometimes offers you quick fixes. So for example, I want to disable this lint rule. I can just very easy do that by applying the quick fixes that he suggests with this light bulb. Yeah, so no questions at this point. So I want also to go into CSS. CSS is also, VS Code is also very great with CSS, because, for example, if you want to write a declaration, for example, text align center, then you can also, instead of writing everything, you can also just write the initials, so TAC, and he just matches these initials and then he puts them. So if you know what you're going to write, then, for example, margin button, and you can even assign the value, then that way you can write a lot of CSS very quickly. Yeah, with 10 pixels, for example, height 20 rem. Yeah, it's very easy, very fast to write this CSS, and this is actually something that comes out of the box with VS Code, which I find just really great. Yeah, and of course you don't always have to use already created snippets. You can create your own snippets. So, for example, in my company, in Stafford, in our project, we have a lot of colors because our designer wanted to have a lot of colors, and we don't access them directly through the hexadecimal value. we just we rather use a function that is called instead for palette, and then we write the name of that color, and that returns then this color value. And so, for example, if I want to use a color here, I would write instead for palette, and then the name of the color, so middle crimson. And yeah, as you see, it takes a lot of time. So I wrote my own snippet. So if I start writing palette, then the trigger comes and I can just click on it, and he suggests me all the colors that I can use. And again, I can also here use the initials. So for example, dark purple, DP, and then he just gives me those values, and it's very easy. And to use this function, I also have to import it. And for that, I also have created a snippet because we have multiple helper functions. And in this case, it comes from the global colors file. And it's very easy to create snippets. You just have to write snippets, and then you see here, configure user snippets. And then first he wants to know for what kind of extension you want to write this snippet. So is it for a JavaScript file, or yeah, all kinds of files. There's a long list you can choose from. You can even create for a new snippets file. So if there's an extension, if you use an extension that is not here, for example, you can also create global snippets or local snippets. And yeah, let's look into my CSS snippets, how it looks like. So yeah, I have some snippets created, and it's very easy. So for example, to import this snippet is this one, or this is the configuration for it. And yeah, you first write some key, some name to identify it. Then the prefix. This acts as the trigger. So if I start writing global, then I see this triggered, and I can use it. And then here's the body, and you would declare yeah, what you want to put into, what VS Code should put in there if you triggered. I won't go into details explaining exactly how to do everything. There's a very good documentation about this. And at the end of this talk, we will send an email with a lot of links, and including the documentation for creating snippets. Yeah. So another thing, and this is very similar, if in the case, at least I have noticed that whenever I create a React component, I always create a lot of files. So I create a JSX file, a CSS file, etc. And this process takes also a lot of time. So I found an extension that creates those files for me. And so, for example, I sometimes, some React components use the React file, the CSS file, and the JSON file. So I can just select this, and I enter a name for this component. So let's call it test component. And here already creates me a folder, and you can configure this however you want. If you want a folder or not, or just the files, yeah, he creates them for you, and he already adds yeah, everything that you want in it. So for example, in this case, I wanted the entire snippet for a React component, and he even you can even yeah, put the name you gave it right here into the snippet. And yeah, if you want to have any other text right away, you can configure it. Again, I will link this extension so that you yeah, if you're interested, you can look into it, how to configure it. It's yeah, pretty easy. Okay, no questions? So multi-command is also a very nice extension that will really help you yeah, be more productive, because in VS Code, you have this command palette, which already is really great, but it's limited to only one command at a time. You cannot use multiple commands simultaneously or in a chain. And this multi-command helps you with it. So I have created some commands. For example, to start my project, I need to start Docker, I need to start Webpack, and I need to start Rails. And of course, I could open a terminal and write everything, all the commands to do it, but I just configured this extension and it opens me yeah, right away 3 terminals with the commands, and that's very easy to yeah, spin up the process. If I just want to start the project, I just yeah, just execute this, and yeah, I just wait until everything's loaded, and I can continue working, and I don't have to do all this manually every time I do. Again, I will leave the link at the end. Yeah. And here another some VS Code extensions that really have helped me. So maybe to add a little bit of interaction, let's write in the chat who uses GitLab, or maybe what type of source control do you use. Do you use GitLab or Git or GitHub, I mean, or Bitbucket? Yeah, write in the chat. I'm interested to see what kinds you use. So Damas writes he uses GitHub. Oli, yeah, Oli uses GitHub. Ro uses Gitea. Oh, I don't know that one. Git and Bitbucket, GitHub. Okay, it seems nobody uses GitLab. Clemens uses all of them apparently. So great. Yeah, unfortunately, not that many people using GitLab, but I bet there are similar extensions with it. So the thing you install this GitLab extension. It's called GitLab Workflow, and it opens you another item here in the bar. And with it, you have access to the issues in your GitHub and GitLab repo, and you can even read the README of the issues. You can even comment on them. You can, and one of my favorite things is that you can check the merge requests right here. So you can yeah, do the code review in VS Code, and that's something that we really like, because it's yeah, sometimes it's, if the merge request is really big in GitLab, things become very slow in the browser, and of course you don't have the same colors and highlighting as you have here. And I have not looked into it, but I guess there is something for GitHub, etc. And this is something I came to because, yeah, I found like, why can't I do a code review in my code editor? Why isn't that possible? It should be. And then I searched a little bit, and just after 5 minutes search, I found that there was this extension that enables me to do this. And this is the principle that I'm trying to teach. I find some problem that costs me a lot of time. And then I try to find a solution for it. And sometimes it just takes 3 minutes, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but the gains are huge because I use this every day. So if I just save 1 minute a day, accumulated, it's a lot of time. So no questions about this extension. Then let's go to the next one. GitLens is also a very nice extension that helps you when it comes to Git issues in your repo. So, or maybe just let me mention quickly the normal. Oh yes, that's safe. So the normal source control that you have with VS Code out of the box, and then I will mention the extension. So if you go here to the source control panel, then you can see all the changes that you have done, and you can also stash them, stage them. I mean, all of them, or just files individually. You can write a message for it. You can also revert or delete the file, and he also has a lot of commands if you click on these 3 dots. So for example, commit, undo last commit, that's a very useful one I use. Sometimes if I want to change the commit message, or if I want to change something and I have not pushed yet, then I can just undo the last commit. And it's very practical to just have it here and have to type everything in the terminal. So yeah, or if I want to stash all of these changes, I can just click on this arrow and provide a stash message. Or just if I want to delete all the changes that I just did, for example, in this case, I can very easy do that. So in GitLens, now about GitLens, it first has this git blame, and then you can see who did this commit, or who did change this line on what commit and how long ago. And then you can even see the commit, discussion. Yeah, so if you click here, for example, and you want to see all the changes that were done on that commit, you can click here and you can see all the changes that were done. So this is very helpful if you're debugging and you want to find how it was before, what changed, why does something not work, if you're trying to fix maybe a bug of a file that a colleague of you wrote, then you can very easy go and hear and see what changes were done, and that might help you to find the source. Also, if you go to any file and you click on this arrow, you can go back in commits. So you can always go back in the history, and it's very, very easy, very practical to see it just right here instead of trying to do that in the terminal with Git. And again, even the extensions have a lot of documentations and a lot of features. So, for example, GitLens offers tons of features. I just know some of them, but even with the extensions, you can learn a lot. So if you go to the documentation and read a little bit over, find maybe a YouTube video. For example, the guy who wrote this extension, he has a very nice video on YouTube explaining all the features that it has, or the most useful, at least. So JavaScript Booster is also a very nice one for those of you who write a lot of JavaScript. I will just explain it by going right here into the documentation. So you can just trigger the suggestions, and he will give you any suggestions that you can do. So, for example, if you want to convert this function into an arrow function, or in this case, he created some TypeScript. So these are all the features that it offers. You can flip if else, or convert normal arrow functions into normal functions, or shorthand functions. So it's very great to refactor your code slightly, so you don't have to type everything. He just tries to give you suggestions of what you might want to do, and again, saves you a lot of time. Jumpy, this is an extension. I know if people find it useful or not, but sometimes I just don't want to use the mouse, and I also don't want to take my cursor all the way up. So I just trigger the shortcut, and if I press the letters that you see here, then my cursor jumps to that position. So if I want to go there, I just write BA, and I'm there. Or if I want to go down, I just write CJ, and that way you can move from places very easy. And if you do this all the time, you can you don't have to use your mouse anymore. You have to see if that's something for you or not. I find it useful sometimes. And the last extension that I also really like is this npm dependencies extension. So if I go to my npm package, and I can just, he converts these strings into an URL that I can click, and he takes me right away to the documentation of that package. So it's very useful if I if I just want to go into the documentation of a one package, instead of going to Google, search it, open it, or maybe I just don't find it right away. I just click on this, and I know I am on the right documentation. Okay, so this is all I have about extensions, and there are no questions. So if I have not told you to use VS Code, I at least can try to make you use it when you collaborate with other people, and because this is very helpful. So if you install this LiveShare extension, it's called, then you will see this new item, and then you can share your project with other people. So we are going to do this together. I'm going to start sharing a session. Now I have the invite link, and I'm going to share it in the chat. There you see it. And just to show you what you have to do. So it will open this window, and you will not click on this. You will cancel this open XDG open. Yeah. You will cancel this, and you will click on this link, join the live share session from the browser. And now this will open actually a VS Code in the browser, and you will click on this continue as anonymous. Then you have to write a name. And then I will see people that want to enter in this session, and I can give them permissions. Okay, well, there are a lot of people. I guess this is enough just to share. And now you can see what I'm doing here. So if I highlight something, I can see it. The other person can change the text. I just gave read-only permissions to the other people. But yes, it's very easy to just collaborate if you want with other people. They don't even have to install VS Code. You just have to have it installed and have the live share. And yeah, that way, even if you just want to see the same code at the same time, it's very, very useful. Okay, apparently I can start the discussion. Nice. Okay, so I will close this session and yeah, so it's this live share extension that's actually made by Microsoft. And yes, so this was the end. I hope you liked it. I hope you find it useful. And again, the principle that I wanted to show is always try to spend some time every week learning a few things, and that way you can always increase your productivity. And because we are developers and we spend all our days, all our time in our code editor, it will make a big difference in the long run. So really quickly, if you have any questions, of course, you can ask them right now. But if not, you can also search me on LinkedIn, write me there, and we can chat over them. Thank you.